Hey, what is going on guys? Pansy here. In this video, we're going to talk about how to grind Star's End with full TUVALA gear or equivalent gear. That is going to be pretty low for the actual recommended AP and DP for this spot. For this video, I'll be using the following gear set. We're going to be using full TUVALA and accessories, and for weapons, we'll be using Narshilian gear because I don't have TUVALA gauntlets and Mystic gear in general, but Mystic is probably going to be the best class I can show you this on because I'm most familiar with her. I have grinded here in Star's End on many other characters, including my Kuno, who is my current seasonal character, but I'm not as proficient, so we're going to be using Mystic, so I'm better able to explain the mechanics and such. First things first is you're going to want to make sure you have the proper consumables. When you're grinding here and it's your first time, you want to make sure you're on the safer side. You're going to be using a simple cron meal. You're going to use a tent buff if you have it, any other buffs that you may have. You can use alchemy stones, a defensive one if you're unsure about the spot. I'm using this one just to get a little bit of a boost in terms of attack speed and such. And of course you can use beast draft if you need a little bit more survivability, and that'll help you out. Me personally, I use frenzy because I'm quite comfortable with the spot and more DPS plus accuracy. One thing I noticed when grinding at this level is I do tend to miss a lot, so I have to make sure I stack my accuracy buffs in the form of add-ons, but also in terms of my skills. For example, one of those skills is mass destruction for a 6% accuracy buff, but the stronger one is nature's wrath, which overrides it and they do not stack, is the 12% accuracy buff, which is pretty good. I usually start off the fight with that and I'll switch over to mass destructions in between. So I usually have a pretty good coverage in terms of accuracy buffs, and that really helps out when you're fighting here. But most importantly is going to be the defensive. A lot of people in my grind spot guide were wondering, hey, how do you grind here? I'm getting one shot, two shot here, and even with full TUVALA, I'm unable to grind. So that's one of the things I wanted to cover in this video. One, it's going to be your consumables, but two, you want to have your journals done. As you can see, I have a very high amount of HP, so that really helps out while you're here. In addition to high HP, you want to make sure you have some decent crystals. So I'm using some pretty good ones here, right? So these also stack that HP and extra monster damage and give me a good DPS boost and such. So, you know, these are really important as well. And there's a few more things I need to tell you guys, but before we do, I just want to remind you, if you are swiping for the game, I'd really appreciate it if you use the code Pansy on checkout for your A coins. It supports me a bit and I really appreciate it. Also, over 80% of you guys watching my videos are not subscribed, so please do hit that subscribe button, hit the bell icon so you get notifications when I go live or drop a new video, and let me know in the comments section down below if this video helped you out. Alright, and the last thing I wanted to talk about in terms of being able to grind here in Star's End is just knowledge about the spot in general. Right now, you'll see that I'm able to kill these mobs pretty easily. I used to grind here back in the day, like back in 2020 at 245 AP. So this is nothing new to me being here at this range, but now characters are much stronger. We have artifacts, light stones, we have a lot more journals and other things that really come into play. We had class reworks and a multitude of buffs over the years. So we're killing them a lot faster than I used to back in my time. But anyway, a lot of you guys do have issue when you first start out and you're not on a very tanky class. You don't have all the journals and you do get hit pretty hard, right? So I wanted to get you guys familiar with the mechanics here and the mobs to watch out for so that you can better be prepared when you come down here to grind. With that being said, this is not for the pillars. The pillars require a lot more gear. You can't do the pillars effectively at this gear score. It's not comfy at all. I don't recommend it. I recommend you grinding in the actual grind spots. So that's going to be a few rotations which are quite notable. Starting with main rotations around here. This is the cliff rotation here. There's also a central rotation you can do and some off rotation if it's really packed. But nowadays, considering how many variety of grind spots we have, that shouldn't be an issue or anything. And then finally, the temple rotation, my personal favorite. I used to live there for so long, got all the way from 245 AP to like 270s from that rotation. It was awesome. Now I do over clear it even in this gear. So, you know, the characters just got so much stronger over the years. So that's one thing to keep in mind. You do want to go to a bigger rotation. Now, in terms of the mobs, not too many of them are dangerous, but you don't want to show your backs to them. They don't hit too hard usually, but you know, if you give them a lot of back attacks, it can start chunking away, and they will start working your HP down. With that being said, there's a few that are more dangerous than others. Like these tentacles, they're very weak, and you can kill them easily, but giving them your back, that really hurts. These big guys, they have a skill they shoot out in a bit of a cone. You want to make sure you watch out for that. A good rule of thumb is always get the back attacks, always keep moving, always position yourself in perfect spots so that you can maximize your DPS as well as keep yourself out of harm's way. And that goes for any spot. It's not just Star's End. Star's End is probably one of the initial spots that people get a taste of the end game, and one of the hype spots, right? This place, Kertuga, it's one of those introductory spots into what the game's all about. Of course, there are Elvia spots which are much sooner, but with the disto drop, it's a pretty intense dopamine spike. People love this spot for that reason. So a lot of people want to be able to grind here. So with that being said, all of those things I talked about, I'm not going in depth with the journals and stuff. As you can see, my base stats, my APDP is much higher than someone who has no journals done, and of course the HP and stuff. But now I'm going to go over a couple of the rotations, but more so I'm just going to talk through grinding a couple rotations just so you guys can get a feel for things here. So the two rotations I want to go over are going to be Cliff and Main. I already have a video from back in the day of temple rotation. Nothing's changed there, so that video is 100% valid. I'll try to link it in the description down below. Remind me if I don't. But we're going to start off with the Cliff rotation. This was a personal favorite of mine because I like the layout of the mobs. It was a lot more straightforward than the main rotation, which was notably higher trash per hour back in the day. But if you have enough mobility, this rotation easily matches up to it as well. All right, I'm going to go ahead and get started here. One thing to note is those crystals and these black star crystal things over here, whatever they're called, as soon as you destroy them, they'll knock down every mob around, and you'll be able to capitalize on the down attack and do a lot more DPS. However, the time spent waiting for mobs to gather around it is a bit of a waste of time if you're able to kill the mobs faster without using the crystals. So you'll see me skip out on that. But if you're just a fresh player with full pin TUVALA, you don't have the journals, you don't have all the best stuff, crystals, artifacts, light stones, etc., you might need that extra DPS in order to kill the mobs. So don't hesitate to use those. Go at a good pace. Make sure you don't die and lose crystals. But I'm not using them because I'm used to not grinding without them. And around like 260 back in the old days, before all the buffs and stuff, I would generally just skip out on the crystals back then. But now, like I said, characters are much stronger. I don't need to worry about that. So let's go ahead and start a loot scroll, and we can get going on a few rotations and stuff. I'll go ahead and just use a blue loot scroll because whatever. All right, we got the buffs rolling. We got a nice frenzy draft of corruption, so I can maximize on my DPS here. I got my pets out. I'm gonna make sure that I hit my alchemy stone, and we are good to go. As you can see, I'm doing a pretty decent job in terms of DPS. My striker would probably shred through these a lot quicker, but you know, Mystic, I always love Mystic. She has really good protection, so if you're a new player and you want to actually push higher end rotations, higher end as in like compared to your gear score, Mystic is one of those classes that does go to places quicker. Like for example, back in the day when it was recommended to have like 331 DP at Sakraya lower, I used to go there with only 318 DP as Mystic, and because of her really good super armors, frontal guards, etc., she was able to handle it no problem. As you can see, like, these mobs are getting chunked by her. So definitely a powerful class still. A bit underappreciated. I know recently the Awakening got buffs, which made her a lot more appealing, and about damn time. And if you guys were there in one of my recent streams playing Maple Story and showing off one of my mains over there, the Buccaneer, he has it's a Water Dragon class as well, and he has a skill which would really suit an Awakened Mystic. I wish we had something like that in here, but anyway, as you can see, I was doing a bad job at keeping my accuracy buffs up, but these things are dying pretty quick anyway, so I didn't really bother too much. So the reason why I'm going the route I am is it's a very safe route. This isn't the maximum trash loot route. And like I said, in one of my few recent videos, people were complaining that, hey, they're not able to do it. It's too hard. These mobs are killing them and such. So that's why I want to show the route that I would recommend you start with. And then you start expanding. Depending on your class's kit, the mobility, the AoE size, and the burst, you're going to be doing a different rotation, even if it varies a bit compared to someone who's playing a different class, but the same gear. So with that in mind, I'm just going as safe as possible just to get a good clear of a rotation here. Like I said, you want to keep yourself in a good position, get those back attacks, make sure that you're not showing your back to an enemy and they're not able to chunk you down. Back in the old days, we didn't get Kaffir stones, though. That's pretty cool that, you know, this place did get a little bit buffed over the years from random drops. But remember, if you're on a seasonal server, you're going to get seasonal drops as well. So that really helps your money per hour, makes it a lot more consistent than grinding on a non-seasonal server, you know? All right, so that's like one round of the cliff rotation. Now I'm going to do a round of the main rotation for you guys. Once again, it's not the most optimal way to pull, but I feel this is the safest way to pull, and that's important, right? When you're learning how to grind in a new spot, you want to make sure you're getting through the rounds, you're able to get a feel for how the damage is, how to pull, how to aggro the mobs, and group them together. And there's a lot of little tiny details, minute details, which add to your trash loot per hour over time. So it's going to be a thing of just rinse and repeat and optimize as you go and figure out for yourself rather than watching someone's guide, because if they're not playing the exact same spec as you, then obviously it's going to be a bit different depending from class to class, right? All right, this is where we're starting for the main rotation. The mobs are right there. Generally, this is the first crystal that I like to start at. And I totally forgot to be using Sweeping Kick for that extra AP buff. Shows how long it's been since I played Mystic, right? Anyway, they're still dying pretty well even without that, so, well, I guess this just shows that this is very much doable, even if you're playing in a scuffed manner like myself here, but we'll try to fix that as we go. Over here, it was pretty much in the way, so I went ahead and destroyed the crystal here. And if I didn't, I'd usually pull this pack over here. As they gather around, I like to use Nature's Wrath, because that's not a high DPS skill that I rely on, but getting that accuracy buff ready and primed to go, it really does help out. Accuracy is one of those things that you want to make sure you have enough of when you go from spot to spot, but you also factor in your skill add-ons, their on-use effects, etc. when you're, and like consumables and such when you see if you have enough accuracy, because you don't want to sacrifice too much DPS, then that slows down your grind speed. Of course, people forget about the stuffed dough, the verdure bucks, and the on-use effect of those. That's 20 accuracy for a pretty large chunk of time. As you can see, I get pretty careless here. I'll just face tank it because my character's strong enough to handle it. Mystic's a pretty tanky class in general. Plus, I have all those journals, right? So I have a lot less to worry about than someone who's a newer player in full pin TUVALA gear who doesn't have all those journals done. So make sure you guys do those journals. Character progression is important, right? It's one of those things that we do passively over time, and it's a part of the entire gearing system and progression system in BDO. I know I personally didn't like doing it. It feels like such a chore, but you know, the ones who do put into time to get it done are the ones who deserve that buff. So it is what it is. It's a part of the game. No point in complaining about it. Just, you know, little by little, step by step, get it done, and you'll have it forever for all your classes and characters. So that's going to be a permanent buff to your account. So those are like the biggest things, guys. Everything I talked about in this video that are factors that will differentiate you from those who can grind at Stars End and those who can't, with low gear, of course. Honestly, I'm using Narchilian gear here, but you'll get a little bit more AP using full pin TUVALA, so it should balance out a bit for you guys. But most importantly, this is a step-by-step process, how you build your character. So everything works together, like all your crystals, your skill add-ons, and all the skills that you choose in terms of your class build, whatnot. We open all our skills now, but me personally, there's some combos that I know I should be using, which will dish out more damage that I just don't, because I don't feel comfortable using it compared to other rotations and such. But depending on the grind spot, I will switch my rotation up a bit and throw in a bit more survivability if I need it, throw in a bit more burst if I want to front load the damage and kill the mobs quickly, because I do have the AP for it. So there's a lot of various factors that all come into the picture when you're trying to be optimized and efficient at a spot, so you're able to maximize how much silver you make per hour. So it's a long process, guys, and it's a part of the journey of BDO where you're going through all these various spots and getting good at them, practicing, and then buying better gear and moving on. So Stars End is just one step of the way. Do focus on your account as a whole and learn more about the game and your class and all the intricacies and their various mechanics and such. And that's gonna really help you along the way when you get to more complicated spots. Stars End's not very complicated, but it's a really good starter spot. I love doing it on seasonal because it's less crowded than the main server, but you also get more money from the additional seasonal drop. It's less crowded because people don't realize that they can actually be doing it. But yeah, Stars End and Kratuga are probably my favorite spots in seasonal. All right, guys, that's it for this video. Hope you found it helpful. Please do like, comment, and subscribe if you enjoyed the video. Let me know in the comment section down below if you are trying out Stars End and what you thought about it. And if you are swiping for A coins, remember, code Pansy helps your boy out. Really appreciate it. Anyway, thanks, guys. Catch you guys next time. Peace.